Imagine the universe not as an empty space, but as a humming, alive quantum field. This isn't sci-fi, it's the foundation of quantum mechanics. And what if I tell you that nowadays it's not anymore about the controversy of whether the field exists and everything is connected, but the question is how deeply we are connected and what does this mean for humans? Hey, welcome everyone to yet another episode of Truth, Spirit and Wealth. Quantum mechanics isn't just weird science. It's a fascinating branch of physics that studies the tiniest particle in the universe. And today we are exploring this idea without the math, a just fascinating experiment that proves how particles act like waves of possibilities and how observation collapses those possibilities into a defined reality. And also that everything is connected through a vast, invisible web called the quantum field. And what does it mean for humans? Could we actually influence the quantum field to shape our own reality? Buckle up. This could change how you see things. And as always, if it sparks your curiosity, like and subscribe, and that will help a lot. Thank you very much. The quantum field is like an ocean of energy where everything emerges from and returns to. Particles aren't isolated dots. They are ripples in this field, constantly interacting and connected. Quantum theory tells us that separation is an illusion, and at its deepest level, matter, your coffee cup, the air we breathe, even distant galaxies, they are all connected in this field to the point that scientists had to come up with a new word, entanglement. But how does this work? It starts with the bizarre duality of matter itself, particles and waves. Let's see first the experiment that demonstrated the duality of matter, and then the experiment that demonstrates that once connected, matter stays connected. But let's prove this duality with one of the most mind-bending experiments ever. It's called the double-slit experiment. The double-slit experiment is made with photons. Photons are the constituent of the atoms, and it's the stuff the universe is made of. So it makes tremendous sense that the scientist wants to test these photons to see how they are influenced by the quantum field. In the double-slit experiment, we have a source, which is a device that is capable to shoot single and multiple photons. Then they hit a barrier with a double slit. Then the photons pass the double slits and they reach screens, that is the receivers. If we believe that the photons behave as particles, we would expect to see two lines in correspondence of the two slits. Like if we were shooting with a paintball gun, we would expect to see the paint align beyond the slits on the screens. Instead, what we see is an interference pattern, a pattern that can be created only by interference of waves. Like if we were throwing two stones in a water pond, we would see the waves interact and interfere among themselves, creating bigger wave, the constructive interference, and sometimes reducing the wave size or up to the point of removing completely, which is the destructive interference. This is the pattern that we will see in the detection screen, demonstrating that the photons behave like waves if they pass through a double slit. On the contrary, if there were one slit only and we would shoot one photon, we would see what we expect on the screen. So the hit of one particle, like if it were a marble thrown to a screen. To add more to this experiment, if we add an observer, and for observer it meant a device that is able to measure the photons do not behave like wave anymore, but they behave like particles. And the interpretation of this behavior is that the waves represent the infinite possibilities Whilst when there is an observer, so an interaction with a device on a particular reality, the possibilities precipitate into a reality, which is the particle. What is even more mind-blowing is that if we would shoot one single photon across the two slits, at the beginning we would see on the screens, we would see pattern like particles. However, over time, we will see interference like waves, showing like the same photons can behave like particles and like waves. And this is the duality of the matter. The second experiment we are going to review today is called the twin photon, and is an experiment made in 1997 at the University of Geneva in Switzerland. The scientists, with very sophisticated devices, they took one photon and they split it into two, and then they sent it through fiber optic cables 40 miles distance one from the other. And the right word that they used to describe what they did was that they start tickling one of the two photons on one of the extreme of the fiber optics. And the result was mind-blowing. The other photon, 40 miles distance from the first one, behaved exactly like the first one. When the science say tickle, they meant that they create electromagnetic field around the first photons, or they force it to move in one direction, and they apply other type of forces. And the same movement that the first photons made were made by the second photon at the same time without any time delay. Now, this is mind-blowing because if you think at the origin of the universe, which is the Big Bang, where everything was connected and actually everything was one thing, this means that once things are connected, even if they evolve into several other things, they remain connected, which is another evidence that all matter in the universe is connected. This experiment has forced the scientists to create a new word, entanglement. And what has been reported in the scientific journals that reported this experiment is word by word exactly this. When matter is jointly physically at one time, they remain energetically linked and connected forever. What are the consequences for us humans about this? There's lots of thinking about the connectivity between the quantum field and our ability to influence the reality around us. We have example of great people like could be Buddha or Jesus Christ or others in the history of human beings that have been seen by others making miracles. Were they perhaps able to collapse the wave infinite possibilities into one reality? I leave these to you because there's plenty of material online that you can go and watch to find your answer. And again, if you have found this intriguing and interesting, please like and subscribe. This will help me a lot. Have a good day.